Emma Hayes had always dreamed of being part of something bigger than herself. Ever since she was a little girl, she was fascinated by stories of brave men and women serving in the military, risking everything to protect others. But Emma didn't want to just follow orders blindly. She wanted to be skilled, respected, and known for her ability to handle difficult situations calmly and intelligently. That's why, after graduating at the top of her class in communications and technology, she eagerly applied to join one of the most secretive and demanding military units in the country. It wasn't an easy choice. Many people had warned her about the intense pressure, the long hours, and the harsh judgment she would face. But Emma was determined. She knew that being ordinary was never her style. From the moment she arrived at the base, Emma felt the weight of expectation. The place was buzzing with activity. Soldiers rushing from one training area to another, instructors barking commands, and the low hum of radio transmissions filling the air. Everything was precise, almost mechanical. It was clear that mistakes were not taken lightly here. Emma felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. This was exactly where she wanted to be, even if the environment was intimidating. As she walked into the main briefing room for the first time, she noticed the subtle but unmistakable glances from her fellow recruits. Some smiled politely, while others seemed amused, whispering to each other and occasionally glancing her way. Emma couldn't help but notice the energy. It wasn't hostility, exactly, but it was curious, like everyone was waiting to see what she would do. She quickly realized that her presence was unusual in more ways than one. Not only was she one of the few women in this unit, but she also had a call sign assigned to her that, at least to others, sounded unusual and, frankly, a little funny. Her call sign was Whisper. To her, it was simple, sleek, and even motivating. It reminded her that sometimes quiet observation and careful listening were more powerful than shouting orders or rushing into action. To others, however, it became an instant source of amusement. As she introduced herself to her team, she noticed a few snickers. Some whispered jokes under their breath, and one or two barely contained laughs escaped during her orientation. Emma felt the sting of embarrassment for a moment, but she quickly shook it off. She had learned long ago that confidence wasn't about making everyone like you. It was about standing firm in what you knew you could do. Emma approached her first training session with focus. Her instructors wasted no time diving into the technical details. They explained the intricate systems of communication, the protocols for encrypted messages, and the steps to ensure that sensitive information never fell into the wrong hands. Emma listened intently, taking detailed notes and absorbing every piece of instruction. She noticed that her peers were more interested in chatting, exchanging jokes, or quietly mocking the situation, especially her call sign. It could have been discouraging, but Emma found herself quietly amused by their behavior. She realized that their mockery was not personal. It was a form of testing, a way to see who could stay calm under pressure and who would crumble. Despite the teasing, Emma's natural curiosity and intelligence allowed her to quickly master the basics. She excelled in every practice exercise, finishing tasks efficiently and accurately. The instructors noticed her skill and began to rely on her for slightly more advanced tasks, quietly testing her problem-solving abilities and her capacity to remain composed. Emma, meanwhile, maintained a calm exterior, never retaliating against the teasing or trying to impress her peers with arrogance. Instead, she let her work speak for itself. Even in those early days, it became clear that Emma had something special. She wasn't just technically skilled. She had the ability to observe and analyze situations that others overlooked. While her peers focused on completing the exercises mechanically, Emma noticed patterns, predicted potential problems, and even suggested small improvements that made processes smoother. It was subtle, but her instructors saw it, and that recognition made her more confident. She felt that even though the unit seemed overwhelming at first, she was already beginning to find her place. By the end of the first week, Emma had earned a quiet, grudging respect from a few of her peers. They were still joking about her call sign, but it was becoming clear that she was someone they couldn't dismiss easily. She had proven herself reliable, sharp, and calm under pressure, qualities that the unit prized above all else. Emma left each day exhausted but exhilarated. She understood that this was only the beginning of a long journey, but she was ready for whatever challenges came next. The teasing might continue, but Emma knew that in time, her work, skill, and determination would change the way everyone saw her. Her story wasn't about immediate acceptance or popularity. It was about proving, step by step, that quiet strength, intelligence, and resilience mattered far more than surface-level judgments. And as she prepared for the next stage of training, Emma felt a quiet confidence, one that no joke or sneer could shake. As the days went on, Emma quickly realized that being talented was only part of the battle. The other recruits were still mocking her call sign, whisper, and it seemed like every small mistake she made, or even the way she walked into the room, was fodder for jokes. During breaks, she would hear whispered comments like, "Is Whisper going to tattle on us again?" Or, "I hope Whisper doesn't get lost on her way to the radio." Some of the jokes were subtle, almost clever, while others were loud enough to make her cheeks flush. Could have been discouraging, but Emma had long learned how to let such things roll off her back. She reminded herself that humor, teasing, and skepticism were all part of the way people tested new members in high-pressure environments. Her peers didn't understand her quiet strength. Many of them were loud, brash, and eager to show off. They thrived on attention and wanted everyone to notice them immediately. Emma, on the other hand, observed everything, taking in small details that others overlooked. She noticed patterns in their behavior, the way certain recruits always tried to lead even when they didn't know the answer, and how some of the instructors had favorites. Her calm observation became a kind of secret power, and although her peers laughed, Emma was quietly learning about the dynamics of the group. One day during a practice session, her teammates decided to test her, but in a cruelly playful way. They deliberately miscommunicated a simple signal and whispered jokes, expecting her to falter. Emma noticed the error almost immediately. Instead of reacting with frustration, she calmly corrected the signal without pointing fingers or making a scene. The other recruits stared, shocked that she had handled the situation with such composure. They had expected her to panic or make a mistake, but she had turned their prank into a demonstration of skill. Despite moments like this, the teasing didn't stop. At lunch, during informal briefings, or even in passing in the hallways, the nickname Whisper echoed in jest. Some recruits would add playful sound effects, while others mimicked a soft, timid voice when addressing her. Emma felt the sting sometimes, especially when she was tired or stressed, but she refused to let it define her. Instead, she treated it like background noise, annoying but irrelevant. She reminded herself that their perception of her was temporary. What truly mattered was her ability to perform under pressure. Her instructors, meanwhile, began to notice something important. While the other recruits were busy making jokes and showing off, Emma's focus never wavered. She approached every task with meticulous attention, double-checking her work, and quietly helping the team avoid small mistakes that could have escalated. They began to see that while she might not be the loudest or most boisterous, she was one of the most capable and reliable members of the unit. Her ability to stay calm under subtle provocation, to listen, and to act precisely made her stand out, though not in the obvious way. Emma also learned the value of patience during this time. She realized that rushing to prove herself or fighting back against the jokes would only feed the cycle of teasing. Instead, she focused on improving her own skills, quietly preparing herself for situations where her talent would speak louder than words. She stayed late to practice decoding signals, read extra manuals on advanced communication protocols, and even began studying the patterns in her teammates' behavior to anticipate problems during exercises. The mockery continued, but it had less and less impact on her because she was building something far stronger: skill, confidence, and credibility. One particularly tense day, the unit had a simulated communication blackout exercise. The recruits were required to manage messages in complete silence, relying only on their knowledge, signals, and intuition. Emma's teammates expected her to struggle under the pressure, thinking that Whisper would fade into the background. Instead, she became the linchpin of the exercise. She noticed a critical misstep in the way a signal had been sent and quickly adjusted it, preventing a chain of mistakes that could have caused the simulation to fail. The instructors immediately recognized her quick thinking and accuracy. For the first time, some of her peers looked at her with surprise, a mixture of respect and disbelief in their eyes. Even with this success, Emma remained humble. She didn't boast or gloat. She knew that one exercise didn't erase weeks of mockery or the skepticism of her peers. But inside, she felt a quiet satisfaction. She was proving her value not through arguments or confrontations, but by consistently performing well, even when others doubted her. The teasing became background noise, a reminder that people often fear what they don't fully understand or can't easily control. By the end of part 2, it was clear that Emma had started to carve out her place in the unit. She wasn't the loudest, nor did she demand attention, but her resilience, focus, and quiet skill were starting to show cracks in the armor of mockery around her. Some of the jokes became less sharp, and a few recruits even began to ask for her help during exercises. Emma's path wasn't easy, but she had learned that strength didn't always have to be loud, and respect wasn't given. It was earned through consistent, undeniable ability. In those early days, amid the laughter and subtle ridicule, Emma discovered her true power: patience, observation, and the confidence to let her work speak for itself. The unit had tested her, but little did they know the most important tests were yet to come. Emma's quiet determination began to shine during her first serious challenges in the unit. While her peers were still joking about her call sign, Whisper, she started to prove that her skills went far beyond the classroom exercises. She had always been fascinated by the complex world of military communications. The way signals, codes, and protocols could connect people over distances and even save lives under pressure. Now, in the midst of real training exercises, Emma had the chance to show what she could do. The first major test came during a simulated emergency drill. The instructors created a scenario where critical information needed to be transmitted across multiple teams under strict time limits. One wrong move, one missed signal, and the entire operation could fail. Emma's peers were nervous. Some whispered jokes about Whisper trying not to mess up, while others smirked confidently, thinking this would be a chance to embarrass her. Emma, however, remained calm. She had learned that panic only leads to mistakes, and focus was the true key to success. As the exercise began, Emma quickly assessed the situation. She analyzed the incoming signals, noticed inconsistencies that others missed, and anticipated the next steps before anyone else acted. When a teammate sent a message incorrectly, most would have panicked or tried to cover it up. Emma calmly corrected the signal, ensuring that the information reached the next team accurately and on time. Her peers watched in stunned silence. The girl they had teased was moving faster and thinking clearer than most of them combined. By the time the simulation reached its most intense stage, Emma had taken on a central role without anyone formally assigning it to her. She guided messages with precision, flagged potential errors, and even suggested adjustments to optimize communication flow. The instructors were quietly observing, taking notes, and exchanging approving glances. Emma's performance was impressive not because she shouted commands or drew attention to herself, but because she anticipated problems and solved them before they even occurred. Her peers, who had mocked her just days before, could only stare as the reality became clear. Whisper was far more capable than they had imagined. What made Emma stand out wasn't just technical skill. It was her mindset. While others allowed stress or ridicule to affect them, she used every challenge as an opportunity to prove herself. Even small mistakes by her teammates didn't frustrate her. She adapted, corrected, and moved forward. She had learned that respect was earned through consistent action, not arguments or bravado. And slowly, her peers began to notice this. Some of the jokes became quieter, less confident, as they realized Emma wasn't just competent. She was exceptional. Another key moment came during a complex encryption exercise. The team had to decode and relay sensitive information while under a simulated cyber attack that interfered with normal communication channels. Most recruits struggled, fumbling with the codes, misreading signals, and losing precious time. Emma, on the other hand, thrived under pressure. Her careful observation allowed her to identify patterns in the scrambled messages, and she decoded them faster than anyone else. Not only did she complete her own tasks efficiently, but she also quietly helped teammates who were falling behind, ensuring the entire team met the exercise objectives. Her instructors were impressed by her consistency and calm demeanor. They noticed that while other recruits were loud, anxious, or overconfident, Emma's quiet efficiency made her invaluable. One instructor even remarked under his breath that she had the potential to be a leader in high-stakes operations. Emma didn't hear this at the time, but the thought of earning such recognition motivated her further. She understood that leadership wasn't about being the loudest voice. It was about being reliable, competent, and capable under pressure. Even though Emma was excelling, she never let success make her arrogant. She remained approachable and professional, helping teammates when needed and maintaining a level of humility that only increased her credibility. Her calm and quiet confidence was becoming a silent challenge to those who had mocked her initially. They had underestimated her because she didn't seek attention or engage in banter. They assumed that humor equaled weakness. Emma proved that strength could be quiet, and that skill could be far more powerful than jokes or teasing. By the end of this part of training, Emma had begun to earn a grudging respect from some of her peers. They still whispered jokes occasionally, but now there was also a note of caution in their laughter, a recognition that she was not someone to be underestimated. Emma felt a growing sense of pride, not in proving them wrong, but in demonstrating her abilities and maintaining her composure no matter the circumstances. She knew this was only the beginning, but it was a significant step in showing that she belonged, and that her call sign, once a source of ridicule, might one day be associated with skill and reliability. Through these early exercises, Emma's journey demonstrated an important truth. True competence is shown through action, not words, and respect is earned by handling pressure with intelligence and grace. She had started turning skepticism into admiration, teasing into acknowledgement, and doubts into recognition. And as she looked ahead to even more complex challenges, she felt ready, confident, and quietly unstoppable. The first real test of Emma Hayes' skills arrived sooner than anyone expected. The instructors announced a live operation simulation, one designed to mimic the pressure and chaos of an actual mission. Unlike previous exercises, this simulation would require the team to manage communications in a high-stakes scenario where even a small mistake could cause major consequences. Emma's peers were nervous, whispering jokes and doubts, still treating her call sign, whisper, as something funny, but Emma felt a quiet excitement. This was exactly the kind of challenge she had been preparing for. From the moment the simulation began, it became clear that this would be far more intense than anything they had done before. Signals were scrambled, time was limited, and unexpected obstacles kept popping up. Most of the recruits struggled to keep up, fumbling with messages and hesitating when decisions needed to be made. Emma, however, stayed calm. She quickly analyzed the situation, understanding which information was critical and how to prioritize it. Her mind worked like a well-oiled machine, connecting dots, predicting problems, and correcting mistakes before they could escalate. The first real crisis came when a teammate misread a vital signal. Panic started to spread across the group as others tried to figure out what had gone wrong. Emma, noticing the error immediately, acted decisively. She corrected the message, rerouted it to the right channels, and ensured the operation could continue smoothly. Her peers watched, stunned. The girl they had teased so freely was now saving the entire team from a potential disaster. Emma didn't boast or celebrate. She simply returned to her role, quietly ensuring that communications remained accurate and efficient. As the simulation continued, unexpected complications arose. Certain communication lines went down as part of the exercise, forcing the team to improvise under pressure. Many recruits panicked, arguing about what to do next or hesitating to act. Emma remained focused, calmly coordinating alternative routes, relaying critical information, and anticipating potential failures. Her skill and foresight became the backbone of the operation. The instructors, watching closely, began to whisper among themselves. They noticed how Emma was not only managing her own tasks perfectly but also subtly guiding others, preventing mistakes before they could happen. Her peers' attitude began to shift during this phase. Some of the teasing stopped, replaced by cautious observation. They realized that Emma's quiet demeanor and focus were more valuable than loud confidence or sarcastic jokes. A few even began to look to her for guidance, though they didn't admit it openly. Emma noticed these changes but stayed focused on the mission. She understood that the goal was not to prove anything to them verbally, but to let her actions speak louder than their mockery. The simulation grew even more intense when an enemy team tried to disrupt communications, creating confusion and forcing the recruits to think on their feet. Panic set in among several members, but Emma thrived under pressure. She quickly identified the patterns in the interference, adjusted the signals, and maintained clear communication across all channels. Her ability to stay composed while everyone else scrambled was remarkable. The instructors were impressed by her calm efficiency, and a few even began to nod in approval, recognizing her potential for real operations. During the critical final phase of the simulation, a high-priority message needed to be sent to complete the mission successfully. Timing was essential and every second counted. Emma took charge, coordinating the delivery while monitoring potential errors in the communication flow. The moment was tense, and her peers could feel the weight of the responsibility. Despite the pressure, Emma remained calm, her mind sharp, and her actions precise. She successfully delivered the message, ensuring the operation's success. For the first time, her peers saw the true meaning of her call sign, Whisper. It wasn't about being quiet or weak. It was about observation, intelligence, and executing flawlessly when it mattered most. When the simulation ended, the instructors praised the team, but special attention was given to Emma. They highlighted her ability to anticipate problems, maintain calm under pressure, and guide others quietly but effectively. Her peers, some of whom had mocked her relentlessly, couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and respect. The dynamic had shifted. Whisper was no longer just the girl with a funny call sign. She was a vital member of the team, someone who could be trusted when the stakes were highest. Even in this moment of recognition, Emma remained humble. She knew that one successful simulation didn't make her invincible, and there would be more challenges ahead. But she also understood that her consistent performance and calm intelligence were starting to earn her the respect she deserved. She had proven that teasing and mockery couldn't define her abilities, and that true skill was always noticed, sometimes quietly, sometimes in moments of high pressure. By the end of this exercise, Emma had not only demonstrated her technical expertise, but also her leadership potential. She had shown that composure, intelligence, and determination could turn skepticism into respect and mockery into acknowledgement. Her peers had begun to see her differently, and the instructors had confirmed her value. Emma walked away from the simulation with a sense of quiet satisfaction. She had faced one of her first real tests and emerged not just successful, but admired for her skill and her unwavering focus. In these moments, Emma's journey made one thing clear. Talent paired with patience and calm thinking could outshine jokes, teasing, and doubt. She had proven to herself and to everyone watching that she was not someone to underestimate. And as she prepared for future operations, she carried with her the confidence that, no matter the challenge, she had the ability to rise above it. The moment that would test Emma Hayes in a completely new way came sooner than anyone expected. The unit had been informed that a senior general would be observing one of their high-stakes exercises. This was not a routine drill. It was a test designed to evaluate not just technical skill, but leadership, decision-making, and the ability to perform under pressure. Every member of the team felt the tension immediately. They knew that the general's approval could impact their future assignments and opportunities for advancement. Emma noticed the shift in energy among her peers right away. The casual jokes about her call sign, Whisper, still floated through the air, but now there was an edge to them. Some recruits whispered under their breath, expecting that their teasing would continue as usual, but the presence of the general added pressure that made their attempts at humor feel smaller and less confident. Emma, however, felt no fear. She had spent weeks preparing for challenges like this, mastering both technical skills and the quiet confidence needed to navigate difficult situations. The exercise began with a complex briefing. The team was required to manage communications across multiple units, each with its own set of signals, codes, and protocols. Any misstep could lead to confusion, and any hesitation could cost valuable time. As her teammates struggled to organize themselves and double-check messages, Emma focused entirely on the task. She ignored the whispers, jokes, and skeptical glances, concentrating on the signals, anticipating errors, and preparing contingency plans in her mind. Her peers, still seeing her as Whisper, underestimated her completely. They continued to joke quietly, making playful remarks about her nickname and her supposed inexperience. Some even tried to distract her, testing whether she would falter under the dual pressure of their mockery and the general scrutiny. Emma, however, had learned long ago that composure in the face of distraction was more powerful than any verbal response. She stayed calm, letting her skill and observation guide her actions. The first real challenge occurred when one of the communication channels went down unexpectedly. A deliberate part of the exercise meant to simulate chaos. Many recruits panicked, shouting over each other and making mistakes as they tried to reroute the signals. Emma remained calm. She quickly identified alternative paths for the messages, corrected misrouted transmissions, and ensured that critical information flowed accurately and on time. Her peers looked on in shock. The girl they had laughed at was now the one keeping the operation from collapsing. As the exercise progressed, the general watched intently, occasionally making notes and observing reactions. Emma's ability to remain calm, think ahead, and correct errors before they became critical did not go unnoticed. The general's eyes occasionally flicked toward her, a subtle but clear sign of interest. Her peers still whispered jokes, but there was a noticeable hesitation now. Their confidence in teasing her had weakened. They could see that she was performing at a level they had not expected. The turning point came when a highly critical message needed to be transmitted. Timing and accuracy were everything. Her peers hesitated, unsure of the process, some even fumbling with the codes. Emma acted decisively. She coordinated the message, ensured proper encryption, and delivered it to the right channels with flawless precision. The simulation required speed, accuracy, and composure, and she had demonstrated all three under immense pressure. The general's expression shifted from critical observation to visible approval. Emma had caught his attention in a way that no one else on the team had. Her peers, who had spent weeks mocking her call sign, were now in stunned silence. Some exchanged nervous glances, realizing that they had underestimated her from the very beginning. Emma's performance had proven that skill and composure outweighed superficial teasing. She had demonstrated that true leadership did not rely on being loud or dominating the conversation. It relied on calm decision-making, accuracy, and the ability to anticipate and correct errors efficiently. The instructors debriefed the team after the exercise, praising their collective effort but giving special recognition to Emma. They highlighted how she had maintained clarity under pressure, corrected mistakes without hesitation, and ensured the smooth flow of critical communications. Even some of her peers, previously her harshest critics, began to approach her with newfound respect. The mockery had faded, replaced by acknowledgement of her talent and dedication. Emma herself felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She didn't need applause or acknowledgement from her peers. What mattered was that she had performed at her best when it counted the most. She realized that this moment had changed more than just the way her peers saw her. It had changed how she saw herself. The teasing and doubt that had once felt heavy no longer mattered. What mattered was her ability to rise to the occasion and excel under pressure. By the end of the exercise, the atmosphere around Emma had shifted. The general's observation had not only highlighted her skill but also validated the weeks of quiet, diligent work she had put in. Her peers were no longer sure how to react. They had underestimated her for too long, and now they knew she could not be ignored. Emma had transformed from the subject of jokes into the backbone of the team, a trusted operator who could handle chaos with calm intelligence. In these moments, Emma's journey illustrated an important truth. True capability and leadership are revealed not in times of comfort, but under intense pressure. Her resilience, focus, and quiet intelligence had earned her respect and recognition in a way that teasing and ridicule could never diminish. And as she prepared for the next challenges, Emma felt a growing sense of confidence. She knew that if she could perform this well under the watchful eyes of the general, there was no obstacle she couldn't face with composure and skill. The exercise had reached its most critical stage, and Emma Hayes found herself at the center of the action. After weeks of teasing, doubt, and subtle mockery from her peers, the time had finally come for her true abilities to shine. The senior general had been observing every move, and now the stakes were higher than ever. The team was tasked with a scenario that simulated a real-life high-pressure mission where communication failures could have disastrous consequences. Every recruit felt the tension in the room, but Emma was calm, focused, and ready. The simulation began with a flurry of activity. Messages were being transmitted across multiple units, some of which were deliberately scrambled to test the recruits' problem-solving skills. Her teammates struggled to keep up, fumbling with codes, misreading signals, and reacting with panic to every minor complication. Emma, on the other hand, seemed almost serene. She analyzed the incoming data, anticipated where errors might occur, and took action before problems had a chance to escalate. Her movements were precise, her instructions clear and concise, and her decisions steady. When a critical signal was misrouted, the room erupted in chaos. Most of her peers hesitated, arguing over who was responsible or trying to fix the issue themselves without coordination. Emma immediately stepped in. With calm authority, she corrected the message, rerouted it to the proper channels, and ensured the operation continued smoothly. Her colleagues stared, unable to hide their surprise. The girl they had mocked for weeks was now the linchpin of the team's success. Emma didn't pause to gloat. She simply returned to her role, continuing to monitor, anticipate, and act as needed. As the exercise progressed, the scenario became even more complicated. Some communication lines went down as part of the simulation, forcing the team to improvise under extreme pressure. Emma adapted seamlessly. She identified alternative pathways, ensured that critical messages reached their destinations, and guided the team without being asked. The general, who had been watching closely, began to take notice. His eyes lingered on her, observing the way she handled chaos with calm precision. The most dramatic moment came when a high-priority message needed to reach the command center immediately. Timing was everything, and any delay could simulate a catastrophic failure. Her peers hesitated, unsure of the correct procedure and panicked by the complexity of the situation. Emma, however, remained collected. She coordinated the transmission flawlessly, verified the encryption, and ensured that it reached the right destination with perfect timing. In that instant, it became clear to everyone in the room, including the general, that she was not just competent. She was exceptional. The general's reaction was subtle but unmistakable. He leaned forward slightly, signaling his approval, and made a note on his pad. He recognized Emma's ability to maintain clarity under pressure, correct mistakes proactively, and lead by example without being overtly commanding. To him, she demonstrated the rare combination of technical skill, strategic thinking, and calm composure that distinguished true leaders from ordinary operators. Her peers, who had spent weeks mocking her, were now silent. Some exchanged nervous glances, realizing for the first time that they had seriously underestimated her. The playful jokes, the teasing whispers, and the casual laughter were gone. In their place was awe, respect, and the dawning understanding that Emma Hayes was not someone to be taken lightly. She had transformed from the girl with a funny call sign into a critical asset, capable of guiding the team through the toughest challenges. Even with this acknowledgement, Emma remained humble. She didn't need to boast or seek approval. The success of the mission and the recognition from the general were enough. She understood that leadership and respect were not earned through words or confrontation, but through consistent action and reliability under pressure. Every decision she made, every message she corrected, reinforced her credibility and quiet authority within the unit. By the end of the exercise, the general called the team together for a debrief. He praised the collective effort but made a point to highlight Emma's contributions specifically. He spoke about her ability to anticipate problems, maintain calm under pressure, and ensure the success of the mission when others were struggling. His words were deliberate and clear, leaving no room for doubt. The team, including her previous critics, listened intently. Emma had proven herself not only technically but also as a potential leader, someone whose judgment and composure could be trusted in the most critical situations. The atmosphere around Emma shifted completely after that exercise. The teasing and jokes had disappeared, replaced by respect and cautious acknowledgement. Even those who had been her harshest critics began to approach her with newfound consideration. Emma understood that this recognition was just the beginning. She had earned a place in the unit, but future challenges would continue to test her skills, patience, and resolve. Through this exercise, Emma demonstrated a vital lesson. True capability is revealed under pressure, and respect is earned through consistent performance, not through words or appearances. She had shown that even in an environment full of doubt, ridicule, and distraction, focus, intelligence, and calm decision-making could not only overcome challenges but also transform perceptions. As she walked away from the simulation, Emma felt a deep sense of quiet satisfaction. She had faced one of her most significant tests, and she had excelled. Her skills, composure, and ability to act decisively had earned her the recognition she deserved. For the first time, the nickname Whisper seemed less like a joke and more like a symbol of her calm, strategic, and unshakable presence. Emma was no longer just another recruit. She was someone her peers and superiors could rely on in the moments that mattered most. The tension in the room was almost tangible as the exercise reached its climax. Emma Hayes had already demonstrated her exceptional skill and composure during the simulation, but nothing could have prepared her peers for what was about to happen next. The senior general, who had been observing quietly and taking notes, suddenly spoke with authority. His voice cut through the chatter, silencing the room instantly. Everyone turned their attention to him, unsure of what to expect. The general began by praising the team for their effort, noting where communication had been effective and where mistakes had occurred. While most of his remarks were directed at the team as a whole, he paused when he reached Emma. The room went silent. Her peers, some still quietly skeptical, watched closely as the general's eyes fixed on her. He spoke deliberately, acknowledging her calm decision-making, her quick thinking under pressure, and the precision with which she handled critical messages. His words were not just praise. They were recognition of the rare combination of intelligence, composure, and leadership that she had displayed. Then came the moment that would forever change the way her peers viewed her. The general issued a command that stunned everyone. "Call her back now." The simple words carried immense weight. The order wasn't just about the exercise. It was a clear statement to the entire team that Emma was not only capable but indispensable. Her peers, who had spent weeks mocking her call sign, now realized in an instant that they had misjudged her completely. Emma felt a mixture of surprise and quiet satisfaction. She had never sought attention or validation from her peers. Her goal had always been to perform her duties with excellence and integrity. Yet here was undeniable recognition from the highest authority present, acknowledging her abilities in front of everyone. She understood that this moment marked a turning point, not only in her career but in the way she would be perceived from that day forward. The command, "Call her back now," also carried a practical meaning. In a real-world operation, such an order would signify that Emma's expertise was urgently needed, that her judgment and skill were trusted above all others. It was a signal that she was now the person to turn to in critical situations, the one whose decisions could guide the team to success. Her peers had been spectators to this realization, witnessing firsthand the stark contrast between their earlier mockery and the undeniable respect Emma had earned. Her teammates were initially stunned into silence. Some looked at each other, processing the fact that they had underestimated her abilities. Others, who had been the loudest in their teasing, now felt a pang of embarrassment and guilt. The jokes and whispers about Whisper suddenly seemed childish and misplaced. They had assumed that her quiet nature and unusual call sign were signs of weakness. But Emma had shown them that strength could be subtle, intelligence could be quiet, and composure under pressure could be far more valuable than loud bravado. Emma, as always, remained composed. She didn't gloat or seek to embarrass anyone who had doubted her. Instead, she accepted the recognition gracefully, understanding that respect is earned through action, not words. Her calm demeanor under the general scrutiny only reinforced the qualities that had made her stand out in the first place. She had proven that skill and patience were more powerful than mockery, and that quiet determination could command respect even in the most challenging environments. The general's command also had a broader impact on the team dynamic. Slowly, the atmosphere in the room began to shift. The hierarchy of respect was being rewritten. Emma's peers, who had previously dismissed her, began to pay attention to her advice, watch her actions more closely, and even seek her guidance during exercises. The teasing that had once defined her early days in the unit had disappeared, replaced by acknowledgement and cautious admiration. Emma's presence now carried authority, not because she demanded it, but because she had earned it through consistent performance under pressure. Even the instructors, who had been impressed by her earlier actions, took note of the general's command. They recognized that this was a pivotal moment for Emma's career. Her abilities, previously underestimated, were now validated at the highest level. The way she had handled the simulation, corrected mistakes, and led through example demonstrated not only technical skill but also the leadership qualities necessary for critical missions. For Emma, the moment was also deeply personal. She had faced skepticism, mockery, and doubt from her peers, and she had risen above it all without losing her focus or composure. The general's command confirmed that she had not only met but exceeded the expectations of one of the most demanding evaluations she had ever faced. It was proof that quiet strength, patience, and skill could overcome ridicule and earn the highest recognition. By the end of that day, Emma's role in the unit had fundamentally changed. She was no longer just a recruit with a funny call sign. She was a trusted and capable leader, someone whose judgment and ability were relied upon in critical moments. The respect she had earned was well-deserved, and the mockery of the past had been replaced with acknowledgement of her true talent. Emma had demonstrated that real leadership is shown through action, and that confidence and competence can transform perception in ways that words never could. In the days that followed, the impact of the general's command continued to resonate. Emma's peers approached her differently, with respect and a willingness to learn. Her quiet determination, focus, and skill had not only secured her a position of influence within the team, but also changed the culture around her. The story of Whisper had shifted from one of ridicule to one of admiration, proving that talent, patience, and composure can triumph over doubt and mockery. After the general's command, the atmosphere in the unit had changed completely. Emma Hayes, once the subject of jokes and whispered mockery because of her call sign Whisper, was now recognized as an essential part of the team. Her peers, who had underestimated her from day one, began to see her in a completely new light. What had once been a name used to tease her now carried a sense of respect, and even awe. Emma's journey from the mocked newcomer to the recognized leader was finally reaching its conclusion. Even though the recognition from the general had been significant, Emma did not let it change her attitude. She knew that true respect wasn't about fame or praise. It was about consistently performing well, being dependable, and helping others succeed. She continued to focus on the tasks at hand, guiding her team through exercises, correcting errors before they became serious, and making sure that every communication was accurate and timely. Her calm and composed demeanor inspired confidence, and slowly but surely, her teammates began to follow her lead, even without being told. The first real change came in how her peers interacted with her. Those who had once whispered jokes about her call sign now approached her for guidance during exercises. They asked her opinion on signal routes, double-checked their codes with her, and even paused to observe her methods when tackling complex tasks. It was as if a veil had been lifted. They could see her intelligence, skill, and strategic thinking clearly for the first time. Emma noticed these changes but remained humble. She never flaunted her success or reminded anyone of the weeks of teasing she had endured. Instead, she led by example, showing that true leadership is quiet, steady, and effective. The instructors also acknowledged her contributions. In training sessions, they began assigning her more critical responsibilities, trusting her judgment more than any other recruit. Emma was given tasks that required higher-level decision-making, more complex coordination, and faster problem-solving. Each time, she performed flawlessly, further solidifying her reputation as not only competent but extraordinary. It was no longer just about correcting mistakes. Emma was now anticipating them, preventing problems before they even occurred. One day, during a particularly challenging live exercise, the team faced an unexpected complication. A critical signal had failed, and confusion spread among the recruits. Many of her teammates hesitated, unsure of what to do. Emma, however, calmly took control. She assessed the situation, quickly devised an alternative route for the message, and coordinated the team to execute it precisely. Within minutes, the critical communication was restored, and the operation continued without any further issues. Her peers, who had once doubted her abilities, now watched in admiration. They realized that the success of the team often depended on Emma's steady guidance and quick thinking. Her ability to remain composed and act decisively had a ripple effect on the entire unit. The teasing and doubt that had once dominated the atmosphere were gone. Emma's leadership style, quiet yet firm, began to influence the behavior of her peers. They became more disciplined, more focused, and more willing to listen. Her presence brought a sense of calm to the team, even during the most stressful exercises. The very qualities that had been mocked were now respected, and Emma's call sign, Whisper, had transformed into a symbol of reliability, intelligence, and composure. Emma's journey also taught a valuable lesson about resilience and patience. She had endured weeks of subtle mockery and doubt without letting it affect her performance. Instead of confronting her critics aggressively, she focused on honing her skills and proving herself through action. By consistently performing at a high level, she had earned the respect of her peers and the trust of her superiors. This transformation showed that true strength is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet, steady, and unwavering. By the end of the training cycle, Emma had become an indispensable member of the unit. Her peers now looked to her in moments of uncertainty. The instructors relied on her for critical decision-making, and the general had recognized her potential for leadership. The girl who had once been mocked for her unusual call sign was now seen as a model of competence, resilience, and calm intelligence. She had turned doubt into respect and ridicule into acknowledgement, proving that actions speak louder than words. Emma's story also highlighted the importance of self-confidence and inner strength. She never sought to change the way others perceived her through argument or confrontation. Instead, she trusted in her abilities, focused on her work, and remained true to herself. In doing so, she not only proved her skill, but also inspired others to recognize the value of quiet determination and consistent excellence. Her journey was a reminder that respect is earned through persistence, skill, and composure, and that leadership is shown through action rather than words. As Emma looked ahead to her future in the unit, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The challenges she had faced, the doubts she had overcome, and the recognition she had earned all reinforced her belief in the power of perseverance. She understood that her path would continue to be challenging, but she was ready. With the respect of her peers, the trust of her instructors, and the acknowledgement of the general, Emma Hayes had firmly established herself as a capable, dependable, and inspiring leader. Her journey from the mocked newcomer to a respected figure in the unit was complete, and her call sign, Whisper, had become a symbol of her quiet, unwavering strength. In the end, Emma's story was not just about overcoming mockery. It was about proving that true competence, resilience, and composure will always earn respect. Through patience, skill, and determination, she transformed perceptions, inspired her team, and showed that leadership is about action, integrity, and consistency. The lessons she had learned and the respect she had earned would guide her throughout her career, a testament to the power of quiet strength in a world that often values noise over skill.